Maryland Department of Health, Developmental Disabilities Administration, Self-Directed Services Training Series, Module 1, Self-Direction Overview, updated October 2024. This training module will provide you with an overview of the self-directed services model available under the Maryland Department of Health, Developmental Disability Administration operated Medicaid waiver programs. This training is a summary with important information on this topic. There is more information and requirements in the Medicaid waiver program applications, laws, regulations, guidance, and policies. This version of the training was updated in October 2024. The most updated information regarding self-directed services is published in the Self-Directed Services Policy and Manual that can be found on the DDA's website. Additional training modules are available that provide additional information on the topics presented in the overview training modules. DDA operates 3 Medicaid home and community-based service waiver programs: the Community Pathways Waiver, the Community Supports Waiver, and the Family Supports Waiver. A Medicaid waiver program must be approved by the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and allow states to make exceptions to the usual rules. This means Medicaid and other home and community-based services can be provided in different settings, tailored to individuals with different needs or varying income levels. For those who qualify, these programs offer services within people's homes and communities as an alternative to receiving them in an institution. To be eligible, applicants must meet specific technical, medical, and financial criteria initially and on an ongoing basis. The DDA supports participants' rights to self-determination, choice, and control to self-direct their services. Self-determination means making your own choices, learning to solve problems, and taking control and responsibility for your life. Practicing self-determination also means you are responsible for making choices and managing your services. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities have the same right to self-determination as all people and are entitled to the freedom, authority, and supports to exercise control over the things in life that are important to them, to the degree that they desire. Self-direction, sometimes called consumer direction or participant direction, gives the participant the freedom to choose the services and supports they need to live independently. The core functions of self-directed services are choice and control over how Medicaid waiver program services are provided and who is being paid to provide these services. Participants who self-direct must be willing to take on the responsibility of managing their services. For services they choose to self-direct, the participant has several responsibilities, including: participants are the employer for the delivery and management of their services. As an employer of their services, the participant must follow all local, state, and federal laws, policies, and rules. Participants are in control of a budget that is established by the Department of Health. The budget is a fixed dollar amount for the purchase of services and supports available under the DDA-operated Medicaid waiver programs. Participants are also responsible for hiring and terminating employees, vendors, and providers, and managing their services and supports as authorized in their person-centered plan. Participants set wages and rates for their employees, vendors, and providers within a reasonable and customary range and within their budget. Participants are accountable for using their service budget to effectively meet needs and efficiently use public dollars. And participants hire, train, supervise, and terminate their employees. The participant self-directing must follow all federal, state, and local employment laws. The participant must use Medicaid waiver funds responsibly, preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. Fraud is when someone knowingly deceives, conceals, or misrepresents to obtain money or property from the Medicaid waiver program. Waste is overusing services or other practices that directly or indirectly result in unnecessary costs to the Medicaid waiver program. Abuse is when healthcare providers or suppliers result in Abuse is when healthcare providers or suppliers perform actions that directly or indirectly result in unnecessary costs to the Medicaid waiver program. The participant must be in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations, policy, and guidance, in addition to the requirements set forth in each Medicaid waiver application. Self-directed services supports. Participants who self-direct their services will have support. Participants have access to and will work with a case manager, referred to as a coordinator of community services. Coordinators of community services help participants apply for services, help guide participants through the process of requesting self-directed services, help create their person-centered plan, and monitor how they receive services. Participants also have an option to hire a support broker to assist with certain employer responsibilities. Support broker services are a Medicaid waiver service available to participants who self-direct. A support broker can help the participant to carry out responsibilities as an employer. Some examples include helping the participant decide what will work best for staff, services, and supports, and helping the participant with day-to-day management of employees. Participants will also choose and work with a financial management and counseling services provider. A financial management and counseling services provider assists the participant with the budget and payment responsibilities required for participation in the self-directed services model. The self-directed services training series will provide more information regarding this role and the responsibilities of coordinators of community services, support brokers, and financial management and counseling services providers. In the DDA-operated Medicaid waiver programs, there are two service delivery models. In the self-directed service model, the participant and their designated representative assumes In the self-directed services model, the participant or their designated representative assumes the employer and budget authority responsibilities as the employer of record. In the DDA-operated Medicaid waiver programs, participants who self-direct have both employer and budget authority for certain services. In the traditional model, services are provided by various DDA certified or licensed community providers. In the traditional model, the provider assumes all responsibilities as the employer of record. It's important to note that in both service delivery models, the participant is in control of their own plan. Employer authority. Employer authority means that participant has decision-making authority to hire, train, supervise, and terminate the individuals who furnish their services within waiver program limits. A participant who self-directs or their designated representative is the employer of record. A Federal Employer Identification Number, or FEIN, in the participant's name is required. The participant's name as the employer and their Federal Employer Identification Number is listed on the employee's paychecks and tax paperwork. The participant's financial management and counseling services provider supports the participant in applying for and maintaining their federal employer identification number. Under the DDA-operated Medicaid waiver programs, a participant has employer authority over the following services: community development services, employment services, ongoing job supports, nursing support services, individual and family-directed goods and services, day-to-day administrator, participant education, training, and advocacy supports, personal supports, including personal supports enhanced, respite care services, support broker services, and transportation. This slide shares links to the DDA services web pages for a general overview of these services. Additional information regarding these services is available in the DDA's Guide to Services, Medicaid Waiver Program Applications, and Policies. Budget authority. Budget authority means the participant has decision-making authority over how their Medicaid funding is spent. The participant determines rates for employees, vendors, providers, and any goods and services based on services within the approved person-centered plan. All rates, wages, and benefits must remain within the DDA's established reasonable and customary standards. Participants have budget authority over all services that can be self-directed, including assistive technology and services, behavior support services, community development services, day habilitation, employment services, environmental assessment, environmental modifications, family and peer mentoring supports, family caregiver training and empowerment services, housing support services, individual and family directed goods and services, live-in caregiver supports. These services continue on the next slide. Nursing support services, participant education, training, and advocacy supports, personal support services, remote support services, respite care services, shared living, support broker services, supported living, transition services, transportation services, and vehicle modifications. We have included links to the DDA's services web pages for a general overview of these services. Additional information regarding these services is available in the DDA's Guide to Services, Medicaid Waiver Program Applications, and Policies. Requirements to self-direct. In order to self-direct, participants must be enrolled in a DDA-operated Medicaid waiver program. These are the Community Pathways, Community Supports, and Family Supports waivers. Explore and understand the responsibilities to be the employer of record and have budget and employer authorities associated with self-directed services. This process will also allow the participant to determine the supports they need to execute these authorities. Be willing to participate in the planning process to determine services needed and estimated budget. Be able to participate in the self-directed services model without a lapse or decline in the quality of the participant's care or increased risk to their health and welfare. Understand the rights, roles, and responsibilities of being an employer for services and managing the budget according to the person-centered plan, and be able to manage their own budget and employees or identify one person or persons who can assist them with making decisions or make decisions on their behalf based on what is best for them. Participants can get assistance with this from the Coordinator of Community Services. It's important to note that self-directed services are not available to individuals who are state-funded. Participants must follow these steps to begin self-directing their services. Step 1. Be eligible. The participant must be enrolled in a DDA-operated Medicaid waiver program. Step 2. The coordinator of community service must be informed of the participant's desire to self-direct their services. Step 3. The participant must choose their team. The participant must choose their financial management and counseling services provider. They can hire a support broker if desired or required. They can identify other team members, such as family, friends, and other service providers. Step 4. The participant will work with their coordinator of community services to write their person-centered plan. Anyone else the participant wants can be included in this process. Step 5. The participant will develop employee policies. They can get help from their team to do this. These steps continue on the next slide. Step 6. The participant will develop their budget and finalize policies as needed. Step 7. The participant will hire employees, vendors, and providers to meet their service needs as listed in the person-centered plan. Step 8. The participant, with the support of their team, will continuously manage employees, vendors, and providers and other services, monitor their expenses and the quality of services they receive from their employees and other supports, and inform their coordinator of community services of service need changes and concerns. Disenrollment. Participants may choose to suspend or terminate their participation in the self-directed services model at any time for any reason. The DDA can restrict the availability of services under the self-directed services model or terminate a participant's option to self-direct in certain circumstances. Reasons for suspension or termination by the DDA include, but are not limited to, the participant no longer meets eligibility criteria for the waiver, the health, safety, or welfare of the participant is compromised, or the rights of the participant are compromised. We will cover suspension and termination in more detail in a later module. These 4 slides contain links to resources related to self-directed services. Summary. Self-directed services allow participant choice and control over how participants receive their services and how they pay for them. Participants who self-direct have budget authority over all services and employer authority over some services. Budget authority means the participant has decision-making authority over how their Medicaid funding is spent within the waiver program limits. Employer authority means the participant has the decision-making authority to hire, train, supervise, and terminate the individuals who furnish their services within waiver program limits. Participants have many rights, roles, and responsibilities when self-directing, including following labor laws as the employer of record and using public funds correctly. Participants can choose to stop using the self-directed services model at any time for any reason. And the DDA can require that participants stop using the self-directed services model in certain circumstances. This ends Module 1.